So I want to start off by thanking you all for staying till the very last panel of the day. The topic of conversation is Young versus Egypt, and I'm going to start off with a quote that I feel like not only relates to the general purpose of our event today, but most specifically to the panelists that I have to my left here. The quote is by John F. Kennedy, and it reads, "The future promise of any nation can directly be measured by the present prospects of its youth." I feel like this quote is really important because not only does it showcase the importance of youth in regards to the nation and how it operates today, but it also shows their importance in terms of how they progress in every aspect in the future. And so I have to my left Ms. Inji Ismail. She is the CEO of Flair International PR. It's a fashion-focused PR organization. Then I have Mr. Omar Khalifa, the CEO of Shagrani.com. And so to start off the discussion, I would like to ask you both a question about how did you come to find yourselves as professionals, individuals, and how did you come to find your passions in a society that's constantly changing like Egypt in regards to its cultural, social, and economic state?
Hello, hi, thank you for having me, Mr. Ashraf specifically. It's an interesting question because you're asking me how I came to find myself in the development within Egypt. Actually, I spent most of my adulthood outside of Egypt. I spent 11 years in Italy. We do international fashion PR, so basically when I knew this is what I want to study, I had to go and pursue it abroad because it's an industry that's not very developed in Egypt. It's now developing a lot after the flotation. Luckily for us, it's had a huge development, but before, when I started studying in 2005, it was still very inexistent. So I went abroad, I went to Italy, the land of fashion, and this is where I got all of my education, my experience, my know-how. And then they always say, I always like using this term, they always say, سافر اتعلم ارجع انفع بلدك. And I feel that this is a very strong topic that all of us want to emphasize for the youth of today. That's exactly what I did. I went abroad, I got experience in the fashion industry, something that I couldn't do here. But then I came back with all the connections, the know-how, and the experience that I got abroad and tried to benefit a small and growing industry within my own country. So this is my perspective when it comes to Egypt. So it's in reverse right now, actually, rather than how I built here, how I built abroad, and I'm trying to come back to build here in Egypt.
Okay, as most of you know that, of course, the moment we graduate, all of our parents want us to find a stable corporate job. And by time passes by, we realize that, from several companies that we see lay off a lot of its employees and all this, the corporate stable job does not, it's not as stable as it once was. And I realized this when I was still studying, so I just said, I'm going to try and start the business, and if I don't make it, then at least I tried. So it took a couple of years to, of course, convince my family, and I was always passionate about creating jobs. Yes, I wanted to make profits and all this, but I really wanted to have like a social element to it, and that's why I created Shagrani, which was basically a platform. Maybe we are inspired by LinkedIn, but we want to support the middle-skilled jobs, the blue and the gray-collar job seekers. So I had this idea in 2008, and I was able to implement it in 2016. So it took quite a long time.
No, it's great to hear about your own individual experiences because I feel like I can relate in some aspect to both of your stories. I want to ask, because I know a little bit of the background of how Shagrani came to happen, for those of you who don't know. It started off kind of slow, but then Omar managed to get a really big investment that helped kind of launch it off the ground, and since then it's kind of been a growing process. So I want to ask you, since it's an extremely unique idea, but also there are so many entrepreneurs nowadays who want to become their own person and launch their own company. So do you think that when you were pitching your idea, was there anything specifically that helped you stand out, or do you think it was just sheer luck that it just happened to be?
It's an interesting question, because I have to admit I was super lucky, of course. And I'm a strong believer that, luck happens when preparation meets opportunity. So, I cannot ask to be lucky when I'm not taking the chance, So, so I remember when I tried to pitch Shagani, I tried, a lot of VCs, and they all rejected, and I tried to go to corporates and all this, and all what I wanted was the seed round, just to kick off the project. And it was miserable, it's brain draining, and it took a lot of time. And I said, I'm going to invest my own money, and just to create the beta version, I'm going to try again. So this time, in the morning, I said, why not send to Orozcom an email and tell them, that I have a platform and I have the office and I need to launch because this and that. These are the things that I need to do. And I did this, and of course, I knew that maybe 99% I will not get any reply. So a few days later, I get this email saying that Mr. Naguib Sawiris read your email and he's willing to meet you. So of course that was, bingo. Especially after, maybe 2-3 years of trying. So that was the start of everything, and I must admit that it made a huge difference, of course. And for entrepreneurs, I think, yes, it is very tough, but you need to give it time. You have to be patient, and you need a lot of mental strength. If your vision is just to raise and that's it, then don't get into it, because it becomes much tougher after.
No, it's really great to gain your insight about that, and I know that you mentioned a little bit earlier about how when you were starting your fashion journey in Egypt, it was an industry that was mostly untended to, and there wasn't that many people who were experienced about the field, and there wasn't really a fashion scene for the most part when you were starting off. And so I want to ask, now that you have your foot in the door and you have this industry established, how do you think the fashion industry, as it develops further into the future, could aid with youth competitiveness?
Okay. So, like I said, when I first left, I left Egypt in 2005. I came back 2016, and I came back September 2016, so almost 3 years ago exactly. And I started the agency in November 2016, not being aware that there were any fashion designers here or any fashion brands. I had been away for 11 years, so I thought that I'm coming back to a completely, let's say, virgin market that's still not developed. Luckily, in my time, the flotation of the pound happened, so as bad as it was for all of us, it was also a very great opportunity for this business, because importation stopped, so obviously a lot of stores, department stores, did not have any more stock, so a lot of local designers started producing and started meeting the needs of local customers. So basically, I feel like it's something that it's an industry that's developing, it's growing really fast. How can it be beneficial to youth? I mean, it's a complete new field that will give a lot of opportunities for creatives to practice, for jobs, for production. It's a completely new industry that has, in other parts of the world, thousands and thousands and thousands of young people working in it, and it's a new expression of creativity that's not really explored in our country, so I feel it could give a lot of also job opportunities, a lot of expression for the youth as well. So
yeah, no, that's definitely great. I feel like in some regards Egypt can sometimes be so focused on progressing in one field that it neglects other fields, that there's thousands and thousands of youth out there that are super interested in these fields that sometimes can be shunned by the community. Like if there's a male who wants to be a fashion designer, as you mentioned before in our conversations, or like a girl who wants to grow up to be an artist. Like sometimes we emphasize job paths that don't necessarily align with our passions. And so I also want to ask a question to both of you. How important do you think it is to follow your passions even though you might not have the encouragement from people around you, or you might not have adequate experience or the direct degree to support your passions?
I'll speak first. I'd say in my case, luckily in my case, I have great support. I've been wanting to do this since I was 14. I remember my brother went to study abroad, and in his university there was a course for fashion and luxury goods management. And I was 14 at the time, and I knew this is exactly what I want to do. So my parents have been very supportive, even though I was very young when I left, because I left at the age of 17. They've been very supportive because this is exactly what I wanted to do. They left me abroad for 11 years, even though they've missed me a lot, but they knew that it was something that I was doing out of passion. So I've had that kind of support. I've gained, luckily, the experience, like I told you earlier, the experience and the knowledge abroad. So coming back and doing this, I don't feel like I don't have the support. I feel like I have complete support. Yet there are many struggles that are not necessarily of someone supporting you or someone encouraging you, because someone encouraging you is very easy to find. You'll always find a family member, a friend, whatever it is that would encourage you. But it's bigger than that, because the obstacles that I think we face as business owners are much bigger than the support that we need, but they're more like related to procedures, to like they were saying in the previous panel, licensing, regulations, law, taxes. Like there's so many things, mentorship, guidance. There's so many obstacles that we face that are much bigger than just a degree or passion. Passion driven is amazing, but then at some point, passion is not enough. You know what I mean?
I completely agree. I think just you're a little bit luckier than me. But yeah, I think you know, I have a vision. I have a strong vision, and I want to reach some point. So it becomes a way of life that you become used to, you know, problems and all these issues. And if you don't know how to deal with it, then you're going to collapse early. So luckily, I've been through the worst, I think, at the early stages. And then I realized that it will never go away. So a lot of people, even, you know, my wife always, you know, she complains that I'm always on my phone. Okay, but that's my job, you know, everyone's work is now on the phone, and if I have something I have to do at 10 p.m., I'm going to do it, you know. So I don't go to work. It's something that it becomes part of my life. And I think it's very important to, you know that everyone in all of the businesses, we all have problems, but maybe they're different, of course. But we need to always, you know, stay calm and try to find solutions, and believe that, you know, timing is very important, and being patient is key, because a lot of problems I could have gave up easily and find an easy way out. But sometimes when you wait, sometimes the biggest deals happen. Maybe it takes a year or 2 years to sign a contract, but then it's worth it. So if you're going to get drained easily, then you need to consider, of course, reconsider.
Okay, I feel like I can understand where you're both coming from. It's a very interesting perspective, because sometimes, as someone who recently graduated college, I struggle with, okay, should I follow my passions or should I follow in the typical path that's already basically laid out for me? And so I guess what you're both trying to say is that you need to find a balance of both, but also like have enough persistence to be able to push beyond that boundary and believe in yourself and what you're trying to implement beyond just your own passions, and what everyone around you is saying. So next, Inji studied abroad and you didn't, and I feel like, not to make it sound like that, but I feel like
I have something very interesting to to add. Me and Omar actually went to the same school.
Oh, really?
We're childhood friends, and I think we haven't seen each other in 20 years. We have just met on the stage now. So it's so funny how like 20 years later, we did the same school, but then we both took different paths, and yet we're here for the same cause. So I find this very interesting to add.
So I'm going to switch my question now. Do you think that your upbringing, your surroundings, your education, the specific school that you went to, did it nurture you in any way to become the people that you are today? Like, how big of a role do you think education plays in the person that you end up becoming?
Interesting question. I think yes, it is very important, but I would say like most of the things that I learned that benefited me were things I learned at university, but indirectly, okay? So how to deal with people, like being maybe street smart, you know, like dealing with people, how to get a meeting, how to express yourself, how to present, not a specific subject. I studied political science, and obviously I didn't do anything with it, but I think I learned a lot from at least expressing yourself, and that helped me a lot, you know, in sales, in selling our business, and presenting our business and all this. And you know, I always say we have to renew our connections, you have to meet new people, because I think that's the way to grow your business. You know, if you stay in this bubble, you'll always need to meet new people to grow your business. And I think the university and school, of course, played a huge role in that. But unless you studied computer science or engineering or something specific, I think it's very important to be social, out loud, get to know people, listen to other people's experiences, know their problems, go to networking events, you know, all these things are, I think, the most important thing.
I think I have to agree. I wasn't the best at school or university, to be very honest, and they were expecting me to be a total failure growing up. But I do have to say that there are skills that you learn that are just not book skills. There are skills of socializing, of networking, of communicating that are very important as well. And I feel this is what schooling, like the school part, gave me. In terms of university, what I got was a lot of connections, was a lot of great mentors that come from the field that I want to work in. So obviously there was a lot of realistic advice to it. So I feel it's, yes, of course, the education part is important, but there are jobs like ours probably that don't necessarily need a specific degree, but they just need you to be passionate and quite smart about it to be able to succeed.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So transitioning on from the question, let me rephrase it. So going back to the question that I was going to ask earlier, because recently there's been a trend of younger people wanting to go abroad to study for different reasons. But since I started my schooling journey back in 2014, I feel like a lot of my peers and a lot of people younger than me, like there's been a huge trend of people doing the same. And so, seeing as you studied abroad and you didn't, do you think that education or experience abroad affects, I don't want to say the likelihood of your success, but the journey towards success? Like, how much does it affect the journey?
I agree. I think it does play a role, but not the fact that you got education abroad. I think the exposure that you see, for example, in my case, I've been to the US several times. When I go there and see the startups there, it's a completely different benchmark, okay? So I think when I come back here, you know, I'm very motivated and I know that I'm nowhere near where I should be, you know? So I think it's very important in this aspect. And I do believe that if you're in one place in your comfort zone for too long, you're going to, there's a bigger chance to fail. I think you always, you know, competition is good. You need to be hungry, and I think seeing people better than you, performing better than you, is something that keeps you going. And I think that's the main drive. And that's why, like every year maybe, I read a lot, you know, about startups and about failures and about, you know, you'd hear startups that raised hundreds of millions of dollars and disappeared, and another startup that raised, you know, a very small amount and succeeded. And I've seen a lot of examples, but I think the key here is the benchmark that you put for yourself. So we have very high hopes, you know, in Shaghalni. And if I wanted the company to be a local successful Egyptian company, then fine, it is, you know, I mean, that's not what I want. I wanted to be a regional, I want to be the number one, I wanted to do something, you know, huge. And whether or not that's going to happen, I don't know, but what I'm sure of is that I'm going to do my best, and that's why I go to work every day, and that's my dream, you know. So yes, I think if I hadn't traveled and seen other startups, I wouldn't be that hungry, you know.
Same question. I think I've answered more or less parts of it.
I feel like you've answered more or less parts of it. I want to maybe ask you a specific question that ties into your experience as a female entrepreneur. Were there any experiences that you felt could have been easier if you weren't a female, in terms of starting up your company and getting your foot in the door?
I expected it to be. I expected it to be more tougher, let's say, in a very male-oriented region. But I have to say, I think we're modernizing now. There's a lot of female entrepreneurs. There's a lot of female working. I mean, we're all working now as females. So obviously there's a lot of support from one to the other. So I actually have to say, as much as I thought it might be a challenge, it's actually not. People are supportive. Yet there is the part of intimidation from certain people. But it could be something that could affect your business or not. I mean, there is still some kind of intimidation of a woman boss. We do have that culture till now, but there's a lot of support towards it as well. So,
yeah, no, it's very inspiring, because that's also something I feel like hinders me sometimes from chasing what I want to do. It's because there's certain cultural and social expectations tied into being a female and stuff like that. So it's very inspiring to hear, and it gives me hope that I still feel like I can do what I want. In regards to entrepreneurship in Egypt, there's a study that says that there's 73% of the youth who think that entrepreneurship is a great idea to, like, you know, go after for themselves. However, 30% of them never end up doing that because of fear of failure. What were certain factors that you felt hindered you at times in your journey, and what do you think that you as business owners and CEOs, as well as we as a society, can do to help better the entrepreneurial climate?
Fear of failure is constant. Fear of failure is every day, it's every night before you sleep, it's every night while you're dreaming, it's every morning when you wake up. But it's also what drives you, I think. Like, the fear of failure is exactly what pushes you to do your best. Like Omar was saying earlier, like every day you get out, you try to do your best because you're fearing that failure. So it does require a lot of courage, to be honest. I don't think entrepreneurship is for everyone, and by this I don't mean that I'm special or in any way. Actually, I was not planning to have my own business. It all came together when I decided to move to Egypt spontaneously, and then I came here. I found that there was no company that I felt like I wanted to work with because my experience was very different. So then I decided to create my own thing, and at that time I had nothing to lose. So the courage had to be there, but there wasn't a lot to lose either. So it was not that big of a courage. But I do believe that I had to have a lot of courage to continue, because there are many days where you say, I'm not doing this anymore, I'm done, I'm not going to be the best, I can't see being the best, and I just want to be the best if you're a perfectionist, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of fear of failure, but it's what pushes you. And like we said earlier, there has to be persistence, there has to be passion, because if you're not passionate about what you're doing, then there's no way you're going to get yourself to work around the clock. It's a 24-hour job when you're an entrepreneur, even if it's a small business. A lot of people think that because it's a small business, it's easy. No, it's actually very, very tough. We never stop day and night. You never stop. Either you're thinking, you're strategizing, you're trying to solve problems. So there's a lot that goes into it, but I'm happy to see that we've become a generation where a lot of us, I mean a lot of people our age are entrepreneurs. So it's nice to exchange advice and ideas and experiences. Back at the time, not a lot of people, young people, took this risk, but a lot of people now are ready to take that entrepreneurial risk. So it's good to have a support system.
Yeah, I agree. I also believe that it depends on the stage of life you're at. So, I mean, if you're a father of two, you're less likely to take a risk and give up your job, to create a company or whatever. And that's what I see a lot lately. I find some of my friends, Omar, I want to start something, I have this idea, but I don't have the time for it. My answer is that if you don't believe in your own idea, it's never going to happen, you need to go all in, and that's the thing. So I always ask, are you covered for like 6 months or a year or something? And they were like, no, I cannot leave the job. So maybe they can afford, just to be a silent partner or invest in some ideas, but to be an entrepreneur or to run a company, you need to be all in. You can't test the waters, But when you look at the younger ages, no. I see a lot of people starting their own things, even if it's small, like you said. I mean, they're more passionate about doing their own thing than to go for the tradition 9-to-5 job. And I think all this changed, with Uber and all this. You see it also a lot in the middle class. A lot of people just, I see this with a lot of companies suffering that ask for drivers and they cannot hire because everyone now wants to work as an Uber driver, or thinks that, of course, he's going to make much more money working for, as an Uber driver than working at a company where you take a much less salary and have a boss and all this. So I think this whole 9-to-5 thing is shifting to more of a freelancing / entrepreneurship style, and we've seen a lot of people who are working very minimal working hours and doing lots of money, and I've seen a lot of people working more than 12 hours a day, and they're under financial constraints. So I think, if I have a message for the newly graduates, I think it's clear. I would say go for it. Of course, you have nothing to risk. You're still young. You have a few years ahead of you. I would say we were maybe unlucky because we suffered from a strong devaluation and 2 revolutions and all this. And I was already in it, so I couldn't get out of it. But I think now it's a very good time.